Good morning, happy Monday. This is not a pleasant topic. This is very painful for me. I need to share this because somebody out there needs to hear this. 44 years ago today, I lost my daughter due to domestic violence. I got married when I was 18, he was 28. I cannot tell you how many people said, "Don't do it, don't marry him." I was 18. Need I say more? I didn't listen to any of them. We got married. We got married in December, and by the following summer, I found out I was pregnant. That was not, I was happy I was pregnant, but he was violent. The first time he hit me, we hadn't been married, maybe a month. I didn't know what to do. I'd never experienced that. My parents didn't even fight. I never saw anybody get hit. I didn't know what to do. I did know, being 18, that I would have heard, "I told you so," and I didn't want to hear that. I used makeup, I cover up the bruises, and I kept my mouth shut. I think I may have told one person. I did not seek medical treatment. Then I find out I'm pregnant. I was happy about the baby. I was scared for what would happen when I told him, understandably. My parents were happy about the baby. They knew how volatile the relationship was. His parents were thrilled. They knew how volatile it was, but he was raised in that environment. His dad was a very lovely man from England, very genteel person, but his mother was very, 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 very volatile. If she didn't like something, she would throw something against the wall and it would shatter, and that was just how it was in their house. So this was his foundation. This is how he grew up. This was his norm, and he was still acting that out in our relationship. So he wasn't happy, but his parents were, and if his parents were happy, he was happy, so he would tolerate the pregnancy. The abuse continued throughout the pregnancy. And then one day he came home, and he wanted something different for dinner. I remember being in the kitchen, and he wanted something different. "Fine, I will cook you whatever you want." And he picked up a pan, and he threw the pan, and he was throwing plates, and just ruining the kitchen. And I turned around and walked out of the room because I knew what was going to happen, and I didn't want to be around knives. And he punched me in the face. I fell, and then he proceeded to kick me repeatedly in the stomach and abdomen, over and over and over. And keep in mind, at that time I was 5'6" and I weighed about 100 pounds. I weighed 89 pounds the day I found out I was pregnant. So I was tiny, curled up in a ball, tight as I could, trying to protect myself and the baby, and I failed. When he got tired of kicking me, he left. I got my car keys. I went to the hospital. They notified my parents, and within a few hours, my daughter they induced, and she lived maybe an hour. She was 5 months gestation. Back then, in the 70s, there was no chance that she was going to make it. We knew that. There was so much damage. I knew. I knew when the doctor came in, and but he took my hand, and he said, "I am so sorry you endured this." And he told me, "Well, this is the game. This is what we're going to do. And you need to know the baby," we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl at that point, "the baby probably isn't going to make it." They did use an ultrasound, and the placenta and the cord were damaged because of the kicking. And he said, "This isn't going to be good." I said, "Okay." What else could I say? So they used anesthesia. I went to sleep. I woke up back in, the recovery, and my mom was there. And she was very, very upset and crying. And then they moved me to a private room. Sorry, this is really hard for me still. And they brought in the sweetest little tiny bundle with very, very, very pale skin. She was so, I mean, I'm talking tiny, tiny, tiny. And we knew, she was dying. I mean, there's nothing that they could have done at that time. Not at the hospital that I was at, which is a wonderful hospital. And the nurses stayed in the room with me, thank God. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried. And I apologized to the baby because it was my fault. The first time he hit me, I should have left, and I didn't. That's on me. When he hit me and I was pregnant, I should have left, and I didn't. That's on me. And this is where it got me. I named her Claire. Give me a minute. And the nurse stepped out and got the doctor because they could tell by the coloring. Her lips were blue, and it was... and she died in my arms. My mom was there. My mom got to hold her. My dad couldn't come in the room. I mean, he could have. His heart wouldn't let him come in the room. It was awful. And they said, you stay here and you heal, you get better, we'll take care of everything. And they did. And for that, I am so grateful to them because they eased the burden so much. However, in our family, you didn't talk about it. I got home from the hospital, went to their house, and I needed to talk about what had happened, about losing my child. And my dad said, Bryn, no, we're not going to talk about it again. Let it go. You got to let it go. You can't bring her back. You got to let it go. And anytime I would bring it up, that was the response I would get. Sorry. Keep in mind, my dad lost his mother when he was 3. And that's what he had been told. That crying wasn't going to bring her back. And that's true. But you still need to grieve. You need to go through the process. My husband never came to the hospital. No. So about a week went by, and I knew I needed to go get my clothes and stuff from where we were living. So I went over, and I had some suitcases and boxes, and I wasn't going to take the furniture. I was just going to take my stuff, putting stuff in boxes real quick. I just wanted to get in and get out. And he walked in, and he was furious. I mean, I had never seen him that mad. It was not a good time. And it got violent again. And I left. I went to my parents. They could see the bruising. I mean, they saw my lip was cut. They saw my eye was bruised. They saw the marks around my throat. And he pulled in right behind me, which was a mistake on his part. My mom goes in. She calls the police. He comes in my parents' home. And my dad told him, you got to go. This isn't going to happen anymore. You're not going to hurt Brenda again. He said, I want my wife. She's mine. She's coming with me. I said, no, she's not. He said, she's not a pair of shoes that you can kick around and throw around whenever you want to. And he looked at my dad. And he said, she's my property. I can do anything I want to with her. And I heard that, and I thought, what the hell was he thinking? I am not a chair. I am not a sofa. I am not a car. I am a person. I'm supposed to be his wife who he took vows to love, honor, and cherish. And then he heard the sirens, the police sirens. And he got in his car, and he left. And I didn't see him again until the day of the divorce. And that was fine. That was fine. It was a horrible situation. It's still painful to think about because, yes, he beat me. Because of him, we lost the child. No one pressed charges. Back in the 70s, everything was looked at a lot different in the 70s. My family looked at it as good riddance to bad rubbish. Move on with your life. Okay, I understand that. But I still have to accept responsibility that my keeping my mouth shut allowed this to happen. My not going to the police, not going to a doctor, not going to my parents and saying, hey, this is what's happening. This is where it got me. And that's very painful and hard to admit, but it's the truth. All parties have to accept responsibility for their actions, inactions, attitudes, behaviors, and the consequences. The consequences of my keeping my mouth shut out of fear was my daughter died. And yes, a year later, in May, I had my son Jeff, thank God. And he's, a wonderful, brilliant young man. And he's 43 and would kill me if he heard me say he was wonderful and brilliant. So we won't tell him I said that. But if my sharing my story will help one person who's going through domestic violence get out. I don't care if you're male or female. If your spouse, significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, if they are hitting you, get out now. If they are hitting your child, get out now. If they are abusing your pet, get out now. Load the pets up, the kids up, the parakeet, get out. Now we have shelters. Now you have places to go. You have safe houses you can go to. Back then you didn't. Back then you could go to a friend's house or your parents' house, but they would find you. Times have changed. People haven't. People are still hitting people. If you are the abuser, look in my eyes right now. If you're the one striking somebody, I don't care if it's your spouse. I don't care if it's a neighbor. I don't care if it's the dogs, the cats, the kids. I don't care. You've got a problem. And now you have a problem with me. You need help. There are no HIT programs that you can go into. They're very successful. In all likelihood, just like with my ex, this is a learned behavior. You experienced this in your childhood. This is all you know. This is how you handle stress. This is how you handle conflict. It doesn't make it right, and it has to stop. And it's going to stop, and it's going to stop today. I don't care if you turn yourself into the police and say, I've been hitting somebody, and it's wrong. I promise you, you do that, and the district attorney, the prosecutors are really going to take into account that you had the courage to step forward and say, I have a problem. They're going to get you into a good treatment plan. And if you don't get the help you need, I hope they arrest your ass. And I hope you get what's coming to you. My ex, no idea what happened to him. I'm sure he found somebody else to abuse. I have no doubt, because if they're hitting you once, they're going to hit you again. And when they're done hitting you, they're going to hit somebody else. And when they're done hitting them, they're going to hit somebody else. For them, it's a way of life. It doesn't have to be a way of life for you. Get out now. And make sure for your children, that's not their foundation. That's not how they learn to cope. That for them, when you have conflict, when you're frustrated, you don't hit anyone or anything. You talk it out. That's why I'm doing this today.